The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.
Exports of the ferroalloys from Georgia fell by $280 million, or 61% in 2023. Such a sharp decrease has never been observed in the last decade. Ferroalloys was one of the main products of Georgia's heavy industry, which employed thousands of people in the past, but due to falling prices, it faced a crisis in 2023. The Georgian National Wine Agency on Thursday said the promotion of wine from the country on international markets would become more active this year, with 16 million lari allocated for the purpose from the state budget. The agency added the budget meant an increase of 2 million lari from 2023, adding markets of the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, Poland, Baltic states, China, South Korea, and Japan remain priority directions where contractor companies would promote the product and increase its export potential. In January 2024, Georgia's foreign exchange reserves decreased by 156 million USD to 4.85 billion USD, according to the report published by the National Bank of Georgia. According to the statistics, foreign exchange reserves decreased by $112 million in December 2023. Therefore, the decrease made up $268 million in the last 2 months. The reduction of Georgia's foreign exchange reserves might have been due to the repayment of foreign debts, which was carried out from the mentioned account. Another factor that had an impact on the reduction was the decline of the minimum reserve requirements for funds raised in foreign currency with a term of up to 1 year for commercial banks. At the end of 2023, the National Bank reduced the minimum reserve requirements for commercial banks in foreign currency from 25% to 20%, which freed up additional financial resources for the banks. Before this decision, the said funds were kept in the National Bank, and it was one of the components of the foreign exchange reserves. Kakha Kaladze, the mayor of Tbilisi, on Wednesday said the budget for the Georgian capital would increase by 21 million lari and reach 2 billion this year. The increase reflects transitional balances consisting of excess revenue, and a certain component is funds transferred to transitional projects, he said, adding the budget figure would increase from the previously approved 1.76 million lari to 2 billion. This is The Checkpoints. I'm Elena Kwanjilashvili, author and the host of the show, and the Checkpoints team is ready to sum up Business and Economics Week for you. Our big exclusive, Andrew Jewell, IMF resident representative to Georgia, sat down with the Checkpoints for a very insightful interview on IMF standby program for Georgia that is currently suspended. What are the main reasons and performance on which reforms make it harder to complete the reviews? You will get all the answers from our exclusive interview with Andrew Jewell. Mr. Jewell, thank you for your time, and thank you for taking my questions. I didn't have the chance to meet you, so welcome to Georgia.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on your show.
So what times is it for you here in Georgia? Are they more interesting or more difficult?
Oh, these are very, very interesting times. I feel privileged to be here at such an important moment in Georgia's history.
Mr. Jewell, why doesn't Georgia have an IMF standby program at this point? What is the main reason for that?
Well, Georgia does have an IMF program with us at this time. The program was approved in June of 2022. It's a 3-year, what we call a standby arrangement worth $280 million. The authorities are treating this program as precautionary, which means that they aren't actually borrowing from us. They are using the program to signal to investors that they're implementing sound, credible policies. The program was
So the program is not terminated.
It is
at
not
this
terminated.
Point because
No. So it was approved.
That's how
in,
it comes.
Right. I know
The
this is a
information comes
this is a
to us.
misunderstanding. It was approved in June 2022. The first review of the program was completed in December 2022. The second review, and this is what people picked up on, the second review was supposed to have been completed in June of last year, but that review was suspended after the Parliament amended the central bank law and created a new position, a first deputy governor position. We thought this decision weakened the governance of the NBG and called into question its independence. And so we suspended the second review. The third review should have taken place last fall. That was also postponed after the NBG changed its policy on sanctions, which we felt introduced some uncertainty into the financial sector. So essentially the program is there, but we haven't completed any reviews for over a year.
Is IMF working on maybe on different projects or different parts with the government? For example, is the technical assistance on, for example, NBG law ongoing? Is there any work between the IMF and the government of Georgia?
Absolutely.
And
so the dialogue is continuous.
Mm-hmm.
We have technical assistance missions coming all the time, including working with the NBG, as you mentioned. We have a team coming in March for what we call an Article 4 mission. This is a surveillance mission. It's sort of an economic checkup that we do in all of our member countries. It's not a program review mission, so we haven't started doing the reviews again, but the dialogue is there, the cooperation continues.
Do you have any clear view of when this program might restart or when the reviews are being completed?
Right. No, so that's a good question. It really depends on, I would say, the authorities' commitment to the reforms under the program. So when we agreed on the program, there was a package of reforms that were agreed on. And to resume the program will require that the authorities meet their commitments under the program. And so we are in a dialogue with the NBG, with other government officials, on the different types of reforms that we need to see to resume the program.
What will this resumption mean? Because we already had this experience with the IMF when the program was totally suspended, and then a new program has been enacted with the government of Georgia. Do you see this possibility, or do you see building up on the reforms that have already been negotiated during this time?
Right. So either could happen in theory. It could be the case that this program isn't resumed, that we don't start completing reviews again, and that at some point in the future, the authorities ask to negotiate a new program. That is a possibility. I'm not predicting that that will happen, but it could happen. Or it's possible that at some point in the future, the authorities will do enough to warrant our resuming reviews under the current program. So either path could happen.
So at this point, if I correctly understand, what the standby program does not offer Georgia is that we cannot use those SDRs if we wanted to. Is that the right
So
conclusion?
the way it works is under a precautionary program, if you are completing the reviews, you have the right to borrow the money. Exactly. So far, they have not chosen to do so. One review was completed, and they could have borrowed money when the program was initially approved. So they had two opportunities to borrow from us, and they chose not to. When you're not completing the reviews, which is the case right now, you don't have the option to borrow. But if the program were to resume and they were to start completing reviews again, they would have the option to borrow again.
Do you see the same motivation from the government of Georgia that it wants to be involved in this type of program with the IMF as we saw in previous times? And we have the experience of pandemic when IMF's green light gave Georgia accessibility to credits when the country, and loans when the country needed it the most.
I would say the authorities do express an interest in resuming the program, and we do have this dialogue ongoing. Now, we are asking for reforms that are difficult. Now, whether they are able to implement these reforms is an open question, but I think the interest is there to resume the program.
Is it the same when we talk about NBG?
NBG is part of the equation. So, as I said, we suspended the program, if you want to use that term. We postponed the reviews because of concerns we had about governance at the NBG. We have asked the NBG to undertake a number of reforms to address these concerns. So just for an example, because many people ask me this question, what are you expecting? What are you expecting?
Exactly, that was my next question.
That was your next question. So just, I'll give you some examples. There are 4 vacancies on the NBG board right now. The board has 9 positions, 4 executives, 5 non-executives. There are currently 4 vacancies on the board. So it would be nice to fill those positions with qualified people. So that's one area where we would like to see some forward movement. We would like to have a clear succession plan in the central bank law. That's something that does not exist now in the central bank law. I mentioned that there are 4 executives and 5 non-executives on the board. We want to strengthen the role, the oversight role of the non-executives on the board. And one other reform that I'll mention, the NBG currently has what we call a presidential model, where the governor of the central bank can make decisions unilaterally. And we think it would be a good idea to move from this presidential model to what we call a collegial model, where the governor would need the support of other members of the board to approve decisions.
So what type of negotiations are these with the government, with the NBG? I mean, are there some kind of like key disagreements, or is this just a mere working process?
It's an ongoing dialogue. So I mentioned the governance reforms at the NBG that we would like to see, and we've communicated this to the NBG, and we've had some back and forth, and they've expressed their views. There are other commitments under the program where we think the authorities have fallen a bit short. And so we've said, okay, this was the program, these were the conditions that we agreed upon, and we think in this particular area you need to do more. And so again, this is an ongoing dialogue. It can be face-to-face meetings, it can be email exchanges. It's not a formal negotiation of the sort that we have when we're negotiating a new program. So the program is already there. It's more a matter of implementing or adhering to the commitments that were made under the program.
Several questions.
Okay, sure.
For example, who should be doing what at this point? When you mentioned these 3 conditions, for example, how to strengthen NBG and its independence, which is really important for the country, because I mean, we can be seeing more activity coming from the president of Georgia. We can be seeing more activity coming from the parliament of Georgia, and we also can see more activity coming proactively from the NBG, which we do not see at this point, or it's not open for us. So why is this stagnation at this point in time? That's what I want to understand.
So I can't point to one person who can fix everything. It's obviously, we deal with the authorities, and that could be at the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development, at the NBG. But you mentioned the president. I think the president also has a role to play. I said that we would like to see these vacancies on the board filled with qualified people. For that to happen, the president of the country needs to nominate candidates, and the parliament has to approve these candidates for them to be on the board. So this can't be just the NBG working alone. It has to be the authorities working together. And we have tried, or we have offered to play a facilitating role to the extent that we can.
Yes, and to be clear, so that our viewers understand, if this doesn't happen, then the reviews won't be completed, obviously, and the standby program is won't still be continued?
So if the reviews aren't completed, the program is there. It's there until a new one is negotiated. So it could be the case, in theory, again, I'm not predicting this, but it could be the case that we don't complete the reviews for months to come or even longer. I would never say the program was terminated. The program is there until the authorities tell us we want to start again. Start fresh, start a new program. Lots of time has elapsed and we have new priorities that we want to negotiate with you. So that would be the only time that the old program would officially end, is when you start a new one. But until that time, the program is there, and it's just a matter of, are we completing reviews under the program or not?
Then my question as a citizen of Georgia is, what am I, for example, Elena, losing out, whether this program is working or not, whether the reviews are completed or not? I mean, why is that important then?
So, as I mentioned, the authorities are treating the program as precautionary, meaning they're not looking to us for financing, for money. They want the program for the discipline, the framework to signal to investors that they are implementing credible, sound policies. It's really a signal. They can say, look, they can say to the ratings agencies, for example, there are credit rating agencies that rate the creditworthiness of this country. They can say, look, S&P or Moody's, we have an IMF program, and this should give investors assurances that sound policies are in place. So if the program is not off track, if the program is off track, if we are not completing reviews, that could give investors pause. They could say, well, we are less assured now because Georgia is not completing reviews under its program. I would say that is the main risk of not having the program. Again, Georgia's doing well fiscally. It's collecting lots of revenues. The deficit has come down, so it doesn't really need the financing from us at this time. It's more a matter of the signal that is sent to investors.
Yes, which is not a full signal because the reviews are not completed and the standby program is...
So if investors ask me, what's the status of the program? I say, we have a program, but we haven't completed a review since since December.
Yes, and we already saw that, right? Because the Fitch ratings that said a few weeks ago, and they wrote it that exactly the issues with NBG and its independence are one of the main risks why Georgia is still in the junk investment category. We had one such example with NBG Supervision Board, and it was a very tough situation. But at that point, all IFIs, including EBRD, ADB, EIB, stood with the IMF, signaling that independence of NBG is under attack and we need to act. And it was a very powerful message at that point in IMF Georgia's relationship history. Why do you think we get silence from the IFIs? Why aren't they also saying that these changes to the NBG law, these changed attitudes towards the sanctions is a problem for the country? Have you thought about that?
Well, I'm hesitant to speak for the World Bank or the EIB or the EBRD.
I'm not asking that, but what might have changed the situation? Is situation any different now? Was that a bigger risk for NBG's independence than what we are seeing now? That is actually my question.
What I can say is that we, the IMF, are in close consultations with our international financial partners like the World Bank and the EBRD. So when we suspended our reviews, they asked us what's going on, what are your concerns. So the dialogue is there. I think we share a lot of the same views. Perhaps we have been more vocal because it has a direct impact on our program, and whereas for them, they may share some of our concerns, but it doesn't have the same impact on their projects. Our business models are different. I mean, we are like sister organizations. They're providing mostly financing for projects. That is not our role. So I don't want to speculate too much about why they reacted the way that they did, but just to say that we do have this close dialogue, and I think we do share a lot of the same concerns.
That's great to hear. Also, you several times you mentioned like different reforms and the package of reforms that have been the basis of the standby program for Georgia. Which reforms pose the most challenges to these programs?
Yeah.
Where do you see this?
So I mentioned the NBG set of reforms. Another area which I can mention relates to the SOE sector, state-owned enterprises. So this is one of the pillars of our program, and this is what we negotiated with the authorities. We wanted to improve the governance of state-owned enterprises. And this was sort of a two-step process under the program. The first step was to adopt a strategy for reforming the SOE sector. And that was done. That was done December, not this past December, but a year earlier. And we, the IMF, had input into that strategy, so did the World Bank, and it was a good strategy. The second step is to adopt a law that implements the strategy. And they are still working on the law. We've seen a draft of it. We have some concerns with this law. So that's an area where I think the authorities have made some commitments, and now we are saying you need to meet your commitments for us to continue with the program.
With SOEs, what we hear is that the corporatization of these SOEs has started. That's what the government says. The structure and the corporate culture of the SOEs are changing. But what we hear from the many analysts is that these are like the cosmetic changes, and these are not like the profound, fundamental changes. Do you share this view? Would you say that's where this reform stands at this point?
Well, what we are trying to do among the different SOE reforms, we are trying to change the ownership structure of SOEs. So currently the SOEs reside mostly with the Ministry of Economy. We want the Ministry of Finance to co-own basically 50-50, 50% ownership by the Ministry of Finance and 50% ownership by the Ministry of Economy. And that is a fundamental reform of the SOE sector. It's difficult. We understand that it's difficult, but that was the commitment under the program. That was committed. That was included in the strategy that was adopted, and that's what we want to hold the authorities to.
Also, let us talk a little bit about the partnership fund and the way the new board is composed. Are you happy with the results there?
So I just met with the Partnership Fund recently. I don't want to speak too categorically. This is this development fund that it's called. It's new. It hasn't started really making new investments yet. Clearly, there have been some changes in the way it's structured compared to the Partnership Fund, and I think many good changes. We still have questions. As I mentioned, we have a mission coming in March, and we intend to sit down with them, again, go over the different reforms that have been made so far, and we'll bring our experts, and they will share their views. I can tell you that under the program, the commitment was no new investments by the Partnership Fund or any successor entity, no new borrowing. So the Development Fund is a successor entity. If it intends to make new investments and to borrow, which it seems it does, that would not be consistent with the program. Now, doesn't mean that we couldn't come to some agreement where we modify the conditions under the program, but we're not there yet. So just to inform you, or just to make it clear, there was a commitment under the program not to make new investments under the partnership or successor entities, and not to borrow again. And the authorities are moving in a different direction now. But let's see what our experts think of the changes that have been made to the governance structure of the development fund.
Mm-hmm. But do you think from this standpoint it would have been better if IMF was like more involved, for example, in the selection process of the board, in like structuring the board? Would you say that would have?
So we're not in the business of selecting supervisory board members. That's not our job. But no, dialogue is always valued. So of course we appreciate it when the authorities consult us on important changes to economic policy. In fact, it's a commitment under the program that they will consult us on economic policy decisions that affect program outcomes. I fear that I've been too negative up until this point. I want to say that when you look at the program as a whole, there are many things, there are many areas where Georgia, where the government, where the NBG, where they're doing quite well. Growth is strong, inflation has come down sharply, the deficit has come down, public debt has come down. So if you go through the list, and it's a public document, you can see all of our conditions. They are meeting many of the conditions. They're meeting the macroeconomic targets. There's just a few areas that I've mentioned where we do have some concerns. But overall, I would say that the performance has not been bad at all.
Yes, and we also have the first review, right?
And you have the first review, and honestly, you were on track to pass the second review, the one that was suspended because of changes to the central bank law. Everything else was looking pretty good.
But at this point, does IMF still believe that NBG has changed its attitude towards the international sanctions, as James John's statement read at the very moment of this Partskaladze, whatever case?
Yeah, this is a complicated topic, and I'm hesitant to get too much into the details. What the NBG has said is, and again, I don't want to speak on behalf of the NBG, but they have communicated that the banks can continue to comply with international sanctions, that they have the right to do this under the domestic law, essentially, the law on commercial banks. And I've spoken to many of the banks, and they have indicated that they intend to continue to comply with international sanctions.
Former NBG officials, they have all been hired by IMF in different countries, which on the one hand says that, you know, qualification matters, right? With this new NBG board, analysts say that there are some qualification problems. Do you think the NBG law could also address that challenge? Do you see that as a challenge, and do you think the law should somehow address this challenge as well?
There are criteria in the law. If you want to become a board member, you are supposed to meet certain criteria that are listed in the law. Perhaps that could be strengthened. What we are saying is we want to see qualified people on the board. And again, that's going to take cooperation between the president and the parliament.
World Bank, in its recent outlook, said very clearly that at this point, when there is a global slowdown in global economic growth, countries need sound fiscal and macroeconomic policies, and they need frameworks. In Georgia, we somehow, business media definitely, kind of like associate the soundness of the macroeconomic framework with the IMF. Do you think these frameworks will be a competitive advantage for the countries to draw investments? Because we see there will be a big competition on FDI in current world.
I think this is precisely why Georgia, why the authorities came to us in the first place and wanted a program. Even though they don't really have a financial need, they wanted to signal to investors that they are implementing sound policies, that they have a sound macroeconomic policy framework in place. So I do think it is important to have, sound macroeconomic policy frameworks are essential for sustainable growth, for high and sustainable growth. So yes, it's absolutely important.
And my last question, and thank you so much for your time. Georgia will have a new prime minister, right? We heard about it like a few weeks ago. Does this change add to the uncertainty of around the standby program and this dialogue between the government and the IMF, or you do not anticipate any like drastic or dramatic changes to the policies?
Honestly, I don't know. I have not met with the new prime minister, even in his previous capacity. I'm not sure if my colleagues have in the past, but I can tell you that during our upcoming mission in March, we do intend to sit down with the new prime minister if he is willing to meet with us, and we would like to ask him what he thinks of the IMF. Does he value the program? Is it a priority to get the program back on track? So maybe you can ask me that question in a few months, and I'll have a better answer.
Yes, I will definitely, and thank you. And I will jot down that we can meet next month. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you. President of Georgia, Salome Zurabishvili, on Thursday issued a decree appointing Irakli Qobakhidze as prime minister to avoid obstacles in fighting the disaster and to duly issue necessary measures, the president's office announced. Earlier on Thursday, Irakli Qobakhidze and his new cabinet won a confidence vote in parliament. 84 legislators backed Qobakhidze and the new government, while 10 voted against them in Thursday's vote. Oliver Varhey, EU Commissioner for Neighborhood and Enlargement, congratulated Irakli Qobakhidze on the appointment of Georgia's new Prime Minister. Congratulations to the newly appointed Prime Minister of Georgia, Irakli Qobakhidze. 2024 is a crucial year for the country as its people will head to elections. We continue to support Georgia as an EU candidate country on its reform agenda and its economic development, he tweeted. It's a priority for us that Georgia joins the EU as smoothly and swiftly as possible, the German ambassador Peter Fischer stated. According to him, Georgia can make progress on the way to the European Union. We want Georgia to be a member. This year in December, there will be a meeting of the European Council, which are the 27 heads of state and government. They will decide about the next step. Last year, the step was candidate status. This year, the step is opening accession negotiations. The Commission has formulated 9 points for Georgia. I just said inside, please, dear Georgian friends, hurry up, deliver on the 9 points as quickly as possible, because this year the schedule will be very short. There will be elections in Georgia. There will be elections for the European Parliament. So after summer, people will be busy with other things. So try to get as much done before the summer to deliver on the 9 points. And then in December, we can decide to open negotiations and move forward smoothly and swiftly for Georgia to be a member of the European Union, Peter Fischer declared. What was new in business this week? Natia Taktakishvili will tell us more.
Rooms Holding will open its fifth hotel in Avasumani early in 2025, as the executive director of the company, Valery Checheria, said during his visit to TV program Real Estate Prospect. The company's future plans are related to the going outside of Georgia. In addition, the company expresses interest in Samegrela and Kakheti regions. Our group has no interest in Tshaltubo, but creating a good balneological resort will bring results. Tshaltubo has great potential. However, it's necessary to build infrastructure in order to improve Zaldupur Resort. Currently, we are focused on Abasumani and we want to go outside the country after its opening. We want Rooms to be in Europe as well, said Valery Checheria. Rooms is a young and independent lifestyle hotel brand based in Georgia that has quickly emerged as the leader of distinctive hospitality experiences in the region. Since 2012, the Rooms has been shaping history and establishing Georgia's global travel destination. The brand now operates with 3 hotels in total, including Tbilisi, Khazbeki, and Batumi. Tbilisi Mall will be renovated. The renovation project is led by LSG Solutions, while the construction works are carried out by the Meta company. The process is carried out in full compliance with international construction and safety standards and covers a total of 7 months in order to achieve quality results in a short time. The construction is carried out using innovative, fast-dying products. The main works are carried out at night, while Tbilisi Mall can function perfectly and receive visitors without interruption. Tbilisi Mall is the first mall in Georgia that offers customers a multifunctional shopping center. For 11 years, it's important for us to constantly offer them innovations and special infrastructure, said Tamar Kikwadze, head of business development of Tbilisi Mall. Tbilisi Mall was opened in 2012. The mall occupies 74,000 square meters, which includes international brands, fast food establishments, a hypermarket, Carrefour, children's entertainment facility, a contact zoo, cinema, cafe, and 2,000 parking lots. Wedding Service Center Dress Code, which has been operating on the market for 10 years and offers wedding dresses and accessories to the customers, is expanding. As the founder of Wedding Service Center, Khatuna Lochwiri, told BMWG, at this stage renovation works are underway in the exhibition space, and from the end of March the exhibition space will be located on 2 floors. According to her, a total of 50,000 lari is invested in the renovation of the space. Moreover, we plan to add a shoe line and bridesmaid dresses this year. The new directions should be added from March. Launching of a shoe line will be made as a result of collaboration with Turkish designers, and wedding shoes will be imported from Turkey. We also became active in the direction of electronic commerce. We are represented on the e-commerce platform Ozon. Because we are new on the website, our dresses are sold with 20% discount, Dochwiri says, adding that the company has offers from the USA, Italy, and Armenia to open their stores. As for the last year, according to Dochwiri, 2023 was steadily growing in terms of sales, and the prices were not adjusted. 60% of their customers are locals and 40% are foreigners. A new wine salon, Victory, was opened on Bakhtrioni Street in Tbilisi. Speaking to BMWG, its co-founder Nino Koridze notes that the wine salon was opened just a month ago. Brand Victory has been producing Qvevri wine with the traditional methods for years. Wine production is our family business. A few years ago, we started with only one variety. We produced 500 bottles of Chinebuli, which we soon exported to the Netherlands. After positive feedback, we increased the production, and currently we produce about 4,000 bottles per year, of which 40% is exported. Recently, we added Sweden and Austria. The rest is sold on the local market in wine shops, says Nino Koridze. As the co-founder of Victory says, the goal of the salon is to promote small varieties and introduce them to wider audience. The wine salon offers Georgian dishes to the customers to better introduce Georgian cuisine to tourists. Wine Salon Victory employs 5 people in this salon, and future plans of the company includes the opening of a second branch in Vaca, as well as launching a hotel under the same brand in Kakheti and construction of a new wine cellar. 5 Georgian brands participated in the children's clothing exhibition Playtime Paris 2024 with the support of Enterprise Georgia. Last week, Ashru Kids, Co, Giraffe Kids, Says the Mode, and Retro Kids represented their products at the exhibition. International exhibition Playtime is one of the most important events in the children's clothing sector, which focuses on trends and quality. About 200 brands and 5,000 victors from 5 different countries attend the exhibition. Fashion companies showed the latest collection and trends of the upcoming season at the Playtime Paris. The event was quite successful for Georgian companies. Several international buyers from France, China, Germany, Korea, Italy, and others were interested in Georgian children's clothing. Georgian companies have received 3 orders, and at this stage, concrete negotiations are underway with international customers regarding the signing of final orders. Como Winery, located in the village of Lisi near Tbilisi, is starting to work on exports this year. As the founder of the winery, Levan Kamushadze, told BMDG, the winery started operating in the market initially with a small cellar, but now they have a new cellar with 23 clay jars. According to him, out of the mentioned pitches, only 5 clay jars are utilized at the moment, and it's planned to increase the production in the future. We have invested over $140,000 USD to build a cellar, but another $100,000 USD is needed to fully equip it. In the new wine cellar, we planted Kisi, Saperavi, and Gorulim Mtswane. In total, we produced 2,000 bottles. At first, we sold wine in the local market, but the demand was so great from abroad that we are planning to develop in the export direction. At this stage, we are negotiating with several European countries, in particular with Germany, Italy, and Lithuania, where a small amount of wine is paying to exported by the end of the year, says Levan Kamushadze. According to him, the wine industry plans to increase production by 200%. Nato Razmadze, founder of Panorama Lelubani, declares that they are planning to add a new cottages this year. The cottages are located in the village of Lelubani. According to her, Panorama Lelubani has been on the market for more than a year, and until now it manages 1 cottage. During the year one, our workload amounted to 85%. Most of our guests are locals, but we are also visited by tourists from Azerbaijan and Hindu. Our cottage can host 6 people, and the cost of accommodation starts from 150 lari, and for its complete arrangement we invested about 20,000 USD. We have 3,000 square meters of land plot. 1 cottage will be placed at one end of the plot, while the second at the other side of the land, Razmadze said. According to her, at this stage the necessary funds for investment are being calculated, and it's planned to apply to the agency Enterprise Georgia. Panorama Lelubani is located 15 kilometers away from Tbilisi. Winery Velino's new restaurant will be launched from 2025. Pekka Jimsherladze, the founder of the winery, told BMDG. According to him, the winery already has a wine tasting space, and with the new project it will expand further. As for the restaurant space, their focus will be mainly on wine. The visitors will be introduced to the history and culture of Georgian wine in Velino. All works should be completed this year, and the wine tasting and restaurant space will be launched in 2025. In order to fully implement this project, a total of 1.2 million lari should be invested, Jimsherladze says. Velino Winery is located in Sagarejo, which appeared on the market in 2016. The wine company produces 7 types of wine and 20,000 bottles per year, which are fully exported to 13 countries worldwide. Until now, the winery invested a total of 1.5 million lari.
On January 31st, the presentation of La Gazzetta dello Sport, one of the best sports newspapers in the world, took place in Georgia, and soon we will see La Rosa, as it is called in Italy, in the Georgian language. The newspaper will collect historical facts, analytics, and exclusive news that will interest all sports fans. The owner of the franchise in Georgia is Sports Media Holding, which was helped by SBC to reach the agreement. BMG journalist Irakli Modebadze spoke to Curino Mancini, the founder of SBC Advisory and Gambling Specialist, about the activities of the La Gazzetta dello Sport and SBC.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Curino. It's a pleasure to sit and talk with you. And first of all, let's talk about Gazzetta dello Sport. I know that it is one of the most influential newspaper, not only in Italy, but worldwide. And let's explain what kind of journal it is, what it means for Italy and for people who would read in it.
Well, Gazzetta dello Sport is by far the #1 daily sports paper. Italians know it as La Rosa, which in English means the pink. Rosa is the pink color, because the Gazzetta dello Sport paper is pinkish. So for me, the best way and the most familiar way of calling Gazzetta is La Rosa. I heard it or I read it on La Rosa, which means, speaks volumes in terms of how popular, how well known and highly regarded this sports paper is. The editing group is the biggest publishing house that we have in Italy. It's called Rizzoli Corriere della Sera. They are the publishers also of, not just of the Gazzetta, but also of the #1 daily general newspaper called Corriere della Sera. And the interesting thing is that Gazzetta is published in Milan, but it's well known and read all across the country. People in the south of Italy will still buy Gazzetta even if it's a Milan-based paper, and its journalists have a very strong reputation as credible journalists, competent journalists. So I would say it's a reference for sports fans, not just football fans, but sports fans in general, and not just in Italy. I would say that Gazzetta is on a par with the likes of the French football newspaper or the La Marca, the Spanish one. They are the leading sports publications in Europe. And I believe they have such a solid credibility when they talk about sports that by now they are growing in popularity also outside of Italy, outside of Europe and elsewhere. We are here in Georgia, and I'm sure that any competent sports fans will know what Gazzetta is, where they come from, and what they do.
SMH Sports is representing SBC Advisory in the region, and you as one of the most prominent members of SBC Advisory Board. Can you please tell us what was your and SBC's Advisory Board role in making of La Gazzetta dello Sport, how partnership happened?
Well, personally, I am a lawyer. I am now based in London. And as such, I am also involved with the advisory business, SBC advisory business, as one of the 3 co-founders of this advisory business. But originally, I come from Rome. I come from Italy. I am still an equity partner in a law firm that is based in Rome. And during my practice, I came to deal with RCS, with the group that publishes Gazzetta. And I fostered a very good relationship with the management of Gazzetta. So at the same time, I knew SMH as a very loyal and proactive partners of the SBC family, and it seemed to me that it would be a natural match, the Italian guys to have a window over a new market, a non-European market, in a region which is very interesting from not just in my view, but I would say objectively. It's an emerging market, macro market, not just Georgia, but also the whole CIS region. And knowing SMH would be the ideal partners to accompany Gazzetta in this journey and help them to put a flag in this region, and maybe eventually also further afield.
We understand that SBC is enlarging its footprint in the region. Can you tell us more and how important it is in the region?
Well, SBC Advisory is, as the word says, is an advisory house. What we do is basically to provide strategic advice to companies that are willing to enter new markets, particularly gaming companies. That's our core business. We cater a lot to the gaming industry. We advise companies to enter new markets. We help companies develop new verticals. We help them find the most suitable local partners, or find the most interesting targets for them in any M&A projects. So that is the kind of business we do, and why it is so important, the relationship that we have with SMH and what we are already doing together. It's simple, because Georgia in particular, but more broadly speaking, the CIS region is overall is an emerging market. If you look at it from the angle of the gaming operators nowadays are looking for new opportunities in new markets. In Europe, in Western Europe, the gaming markets are almost saturated. There is many guys already trading, many brands, very crowded arena, lots of competition, lots of regulations, and so it is difficult, it is very challenging for companies to be very profitable because of this situation. So they're looking for new opportunities, and Georgia is the perfect launchpad for this whole region. Also because I've got to say that Georgia, and I'll say that as a Westerner, Georgia is really, to me, for what I have seen so far, a place where East meets West. It's a very nice combination. You look around here. I was checking this morning from my hotel room, and I think this is telling of how the country is changing and how Georgia can be really the leading machine to develop, to help other neighboring countries get to where they want to be in terms of being more developed markets, more appealing for the operators, etc. And that is why I'm here, and that is why Gazzetta is here.
You mentioned Georgia, and the next question is about Georgia. As an industry expert, what is your view on developing gambling industry in Georgia and in region also?
I think, as I just said, I think that what makes Georgia such an interesting destination for the industry as a whole, and for people like me who advise the industry, is that it's a very young country. It's a country that is very vibrant in terms of opportunities, in terms of desire to stand out, and the infrastructure is pretty good. The connections could be better. What is interesting is the fact that when you are here, you also have the feeling that you are very close to a completely different scenario, a different world, which is Eurasia. Eurasia is, I cannot think of a better place to start a Eurasian journey than where we are right now, Tbilisi. Because of this, it makes everything more natural and easy flowing if you're coming from the West. You don't have the impact of finding a place where people don't speak your language, they don't have your mentality or your habits, etc. You guys in Georgia are a very good combination of East and West, and that's what makes this country very special.
You hosted the SBC Summit in Tbilisi. How do you think the event went? And as we hear, the SBC Summit is coming back this year for about 2 days. And what should we shall expect?
Yes, I was here last October, and I was very, very surprised, pleasantly surprised, to see a room which was packed with delegates. So one could have thought that only local people, local brands would attend, whereas there were also some familiar faces that had come all the way from Europe to attend this event. This confirms what I was saying before about the fact that this is indeed an emerging market. So there is lots of, I would say, lots of spotlight on Georgia at the moment. The people that are monitoring developments, regulatory developments happening in this country, they're checking opportunities, and so an event like SBC Summit Tbilisi is the perfect opportunity to come and see with your eyes and hear with your ears what's happening here and now, and it's a great opportunity to meet with the local movers and shakers. I had an opportunity to meet with the regulators, the local regulators. Hopefully I will see them again soon.
In Italy there is many also world-class newspapers about sport. What are advantages of La Gazzetta dello Sport comparing to other newspapers in Italy?
That there is only one truly national sports paper, and that's La Gazzetta. I'm saying that as a Roman. I am not from Milan. I am not an Inter Milan or Milan AC supporter, so I'm very neutral. But I'm also a very independent judger, and I can confirm that there are, although we have other national sports papers, we have at least I can think of, in addition to La Gazzetta, we have Corriere dello Sport, which is based in Rome, we have Stadio, which is based in Bologna, and we have Tuttosport, which is based in Turin. Well, none of these other daily sports papers is anywhere near where Gazzetta is in terms of popularity, in terms of standing, in terms of credibility. The other sports papers, I fully respect them, but they're more local. The only one truly national sports paper is La Gazzetta, period.
When and how Gazzetta dello Sport was interested within the Georgian market, and why? What are the reasons for this choice about special Georgia?
Well, this is where SBC Advisory played a pivotal role, because what we do is to kind of alert our clients about opportunities. So what we have done here was to pool our networks, our databases, our know-how, and put it to fruition to the industry in a way that can help them identify business opportunities. This is exactly what happened with Gazzetta. Enable me to tell them, guys, you should look at this opportunity because this is a great opportunity. The possibility to localize Gazzetta in a region where there is, I reckon, there is a demand for reliable information, comprehensive information when it comes to the international sporting events. And that's the special of the house at Gazzetta.
I'm curious what you see as a biggest opportunity and as a biggest challenge entering Georgian market.
The big opportunity. I mean, I'll say that based on the things that I know better, which is the market that I know better, which is the gaming market, gaming markets, gaming regulations, and gaming opportunities. So, because I'm very much focused on the gaming business. So if I look at Georgia, with that kind of approach. There are certainly very interesting gaming business opportunities in terms of possibility to launch a business here, catering to the local market, or to take over an existing business that is already providing services to the local market. And I cannot think of a better camp base, as they would say in mountaineer terms, than Tbilisi. Challenges can be, I think, the fact that this is all relatively new for you guys. I mean, for instance, the regulations, okay? Regulations are like dynamite. You have to be able to handle them with care. If you over-regulate, and I'll say that coming from a country like Italy that is over-regulated when it comes to gaming, then the risk is that you kill the market.
Talk about factor of Khvicha Kvaratskhelia. After he moved to Napoli, he brought Scudetto after 33 years to Napoli and also become the best player of Italy. How big influence has Khvicha Kvaratskhelia about La Gazzetta dello Sport entering Georgia?
Certainly, his arrival has made big waves, and I think that maybe irrationally or without too much of thinking, but his presence in Italy and his achievements in the space of just one season may have also played some role in pushing a little bit the Milan guys to say, let's put a flag in Georgia. Because the fact of the matter is that his incredible performance last year, which I've got to say is not quite the same this year so far, paved the way to putting Georgian football under the spotlight from the Italian perspective. So I'm not surprised to see that after his achievements, other players were traded to Italy, and probably others will come. I'm sure that there are lots of unexploited talents here, and definitely the fact that now there is also this additional connecting point, which is the Italian sports paper translated into Georgian will create will raise additional attention around the Georgian football, around the Italian football, and around the football movement altogether.
Does it change the way the Italians perceive Georgian footballers, or it happened before Kvara? Because Kaladze played in Milan many years and won 2 Champions League. Also, Levan Chedlidze played in Empoli. It was Kvara, how Italians perceive Georgian footballers, or it was before him? Well,
there is a before Kvara and an after Kvara. The before Kvara was just, you may have, I think we also had some player coming from a French colony in somewhere, a small island in the Pacific, Carambeu, playing from a small French former colony in the Polynesia, right? So we had exotic players every now and then, okay, including players from Georgia. Even Kaladze was a great player, but it was a one-off. Now, after Kvara, and because of how brilliantly he performed last year and how consistently he performed, and because of the fact that he was the MVP of the season, and because of the fact that he helped, he and Osimhen were the two pillars of the title that Naples won. Because of this, Italians began to talk about Georgian football. Here, there are many people that are certainly hungry for more sports contents, more coverage, coming from an internationally known, reliable, credible source like Gazzetta is. So the demand is there. There is no such a thing in not just in Georgia, but in the whole of Eurasia, and I would say to a certain extent also in the rest of, in countries like Romania, for instance, there is not a sports paper that can cater to the football base the same level of news, credibility and everything else as La Gazzetta. And that is why it makes full sense for them to be here.
Yeah, I hope we would make it one day, and I believe the founders of La Gazzetta dello Sport Originals, Eliseo Rivera and Eugenio Camillo Costamagna, would be proud of what happens today. The newspaper has grown and what it achieved. Thank you for your outstanding interview and wish you all the good luck, and also to La Gazzetta dello Sport, especially in Georgia.
Thank you very much indeed. I hope that we will meet again in maybe 6 months' time, and we will be talking about what an amazing success it was for Gazzetta in the first 6 months from the launch.
I hope. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's all for today. We will meet next Sunday, but do not forget to check us out before that on bm.g for more business and economic news and outlook, not only for Georgia, but beyond.
The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.